administration, they were coming unprepared.
It's not a bad thing to renovate the president's lawn.
Through top-notch programming, unbiased reportage of news, sports, business, entertainment, and cultural documentaries. Voice of the People, 90.3 for 21st century media. And now, a new baby is born. Voice of the People Television, VOP TV, youthful, full of vigor and penchant for excellence in the continent's media space, exposing the wrongs, applauding the rights, dissecting the news without fear or favor, through factual and accurate stories and contents.
Corruption kills three things and makes a society.
Representing the interests of the people and giving them a voice. Voice of the People TV is here to stay towards building a fair society. VOP TV of the truly a voice for the people. The red carpets, awards, the razzmatazz, music, fashion, interviews, and more. Spotlight on Voice of the People Television. Let's feed you with all the juicy stories and glamour as it is hot. Stay tuned to Spotlight, 1 p.m. Monday to Friday. Spotlight on VOP TV. Entertainment like never before. Is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being of an individual. It's the fundamental right of everyone to enjoy the highest attainable standard of health, without distinction of race, religion, or political belief. On VOP TV, we bring you Health Check.
TV, where we amplify the concerns, stories, and perspectives of everyday Nigerians. I am your host, Adefunke Jaisimi, and today we pay more attention to the pained voices of our communities. Human trafficking is a growing concern in Nigeria, with many young people falling victim to exploitation and in a better life. According to a UN report, there is a high prevalence of modern-day slavery known as trafficking in persons, TIPE, in Nigeria. This is something very, very bad that came to the limelight in Nigeria in the 1980s and assumed central stage in national and internal discourse in the late 1990s. Its high occurrence in the country made Nigeria to be classified as a source, transit, and destination country in TIP. Women and children, who are the most vulnerable groups, are trafficked internally and externally for economic and sexual exploitation, such as prostitution, forced labor, domestic servitude, arms begging, drug trade, child soldiers, forced marriage, organ transplants, amongst other things. Internally, women and children are trafficked from rural communities to urban centers for exploitations. Nigerian women, girls, and boys in some cases are trafficked in large numbers to North Africa, Saudi Arabia, Europe, mainly Italy, France, and to mention a few, a lot of countries across the world are patronizing this very bad business, as it were. But as sad as this is, these are not just statistics or headlines. It's sadly the heartbreaking stories of our friends, our family members, and our neighbors that demand actions. So today, on People's Voice, we are amplifying the voices of survivors, experts, and advocates who are particular about these young ones and adults in some cases as we explore effective strategies for protecting Nigerian girls from human trafficking and seeking solutions to these pressing issues affecting many young people and has left a lot of people hopeless without help. So on the show today, we demand that you please speak up. Let's hear from you. Your voices, concerns, and questions are essential to this conversation. So stay tuned and share your thoughts with us. Please call in or text us on 090-447-32605 or tweet us using the hashtag People's Voice on VOPTV. Do well to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Voice of the People Television. Follow us also across all social media platforms at VOPTV Live and make your voices heard. It is time to get real, informed, and engaged on People's Voice. So stay with us as we go on a quick break. Back to our discussion on People's Voice today. We are discussing combating human trafficking strategies to protect Nigerian girls. And recently, a social media influencer, as many people will call him, Very Dark Man VDM, raised concerns about the alarming rate of human trafficking from Nigeria. However, his approach on this issue was marred by controversies as he wrongly accused the chairperson of the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, NIDCOM, Abike Dabiri, of inaction. On her part, Abike Dabiri responded by clarifying the roles of different agencies, emphasizing that the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP, is the primary agency responsible for handling human trafficking cases in Nigeria. This exchange, however, highlights the need for accurate information, education, and collaboration in addressing human trafficking. As we discuss strategies to protect Nigerian girls, we would on the show today explore the complexities of human trafficking, the roles of different agencies, the effective approaches to prevention, protection, and prosecution. We are joined today by a distinguished guest, Teresa Ebi Tobuye, a lawyer, writer, researcher, and humanitarian with a passion for justice. Teresa currently serves as an Assistant Chief Judicial Research Officer with the Bayelsa State Judiciary, and she is a prolific writer with her debut book, Gasp, that's the word, being adopted into a movie. She also hosts the Legal Edge radio program, where she educates the public on legal rights and responsibilities. Today, Teresa will share her insights and expertise on combating human trafficking and protecting Nigerian girls. And I'm more excited that we have a woman that is concerned about the well-being of other women to talk about this issue. Good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to the show, Teresa.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for joining me. Don't worry, I'm not going to stress you. So let's relax. Okay, so for enlightenment purpose, let's start with education. Can you tell us what the difference is? Educate us on the distinctive roles of NIDCOM and NAPTIP.
Okay, yes, like Abike Dabiri mentioned, the NIDCOM is actually different from NAPTIP. So what NIDCOM does is they are more like a commission that oversees the welfare of Nigerians in diaspora. So they look into, I'm so sorry now. So they consider the welfare and seeing how they can be able to harness the human resources and material resources of our people in diaspora. Okay. Then NAPTIP, on the other hand, is an agency that is responsible for the prevention and prosecution of, for the prevention of the crimes and prosecution of where such offenses are carried out by persons NAPTIP is that agency that helps to prosecute it. So while I would say that NICON covers the larger sphere of it. So because they also deal with the welfare of Nigerians in diaspora, we can say that, okay, they have these responsibilities to these people since they are also in diaspora. But then there's a specific body that is responsible for the welfare as it concerns these specific matters,
Right.
and that's NAPTIP.
Okay.
Yes, but they do collaborate. I have seen in news platforms where the NICOM and the NAPTIP collaborate to see that justice is done, to get Nigerians trapped in this kind of painful and sad situations in diaspora back to Nigeria. So yes, there's collaborations between the two, but the essential body is the NAPTIP.
All right, thank you so much for that clarification, because we needed to understand the different roles of these agencies. So let's talk more. Can you share your thoughts on the current state of human trafficking in Nigeria, and more specifically, its impact on young Nigerian girls?
It's sadly, it's prevalent. It's everywhere, and our people would say, it's the thief that is caught that is actually a thief. So
Right.
there are a number of situations where it's not even they are not caught and it's not reported, and persons are actually suffering these kind of actions around the world. Nigerians are actually going through these situations, and the impact is grave. I think in my book I made mention of something of this sort. Two of my characters were victims of this trafficking situation. While one of them was in Nigeria, I would say under this forced labor aspect of it.
Okay.
The other one was, with her consent, was shipped to Russia, from Italy to Russia, although with her consent. Now, it went further to talk about the psychosocial impact of it on both characters.
Right.
They suffered severe trauma, depression. One of them started and took to taking drugs. The other one took to and finding, how do I put it now? Found consolation in started searching for love in men, and ended up having 3 kids with 3 different men. So it's very traumatic. The impact is negative. There's no positive impact of trafficking on persons. It's severe, and if it's not properly handled, even when these persons have been saved from the perpetrators, it goes down to impact negatively on them immediately and even after. You see these persons struggling to come to terms with what they have true
Hello, Teresa.
experience,
Hello,
because
can you hear me?
I understand that a lot of them
Hello.
very when shipped abroad for this
So,
trafficking.
so the network is not
Can you
good.
hear me?
We can
Yes,
barely
I can
hear
hear
you.
you.
I didn't hear the things that you
Yes,
said.
I can hear you. Hello?
Okay.
Yes, I did some care.
The line is breaking, actually.
Okay, I was. Can you hear me now, please?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Hello?
Yes, I'm with you. I can
Oh
hear
my
you now.
goodness. Okay. Yes, I was talking about the impact of trafficking on young girls.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Yes. And I try to say that in my work, GASP, I talked about 2 characters who were victims of these situations, and they were taken abroad and it impacted negatively on them. I mentioned that one of the characters was, although with our consent, was taken to Italy and then to Russia. And afterwards, she struggled to come to terms with what was meted on her. She became antisocial. She took to crimes, or she took to drugs as well, in order to deal with the impact of the negative treatment she underwent in the hands of these men. Whereas the second one was actually a child who was subjected to child labor and used to love even after those things had stopped. She started, she got married to three different men and have three kids with three different men. So what I'm saying in essence, if you're there, hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Adefunke.
I'm with you.
Hello?
I'm
Yes,
with
what I'm
you.
saying in essence is that yes, the impact of child trafficking, the impact of human trafficking on persons is severe. It goes from the psychological trauma that they deal with presently. Some persons don't really recover from it. They just try to live with it. And then later in their, as they progress in life, you see those things coming back to haunt them. So it's severe. The impact is severe. And I preach against every opportunity I get. The impact is severe, socially, physically, mentally, and all that.
Okay, thank you very much for that response. But let's look at it from the legal perspective. As a lawyer and a judicial research officer, what role do you believe the justice system can play in combating human trafficking? Because this business doesn't seem to end anytime soon.
Well, I would say that I so I know for certain that although we don't handle NAPTIP cases because I work with a state high court, but I will state for certain that here they try to hasten the judicial process. So we try to ensure that this unnecessary adjournment is curbed because if these perpetrators are actually brought to book and the victims have been dished their own justice from what was meted on them, one, it will encourage other persons that are in these situations to actually voice it out, and it will also try to prevent those persons that perpetrate these acts to stop it. So one of the ways our justice system can actually help with it is quick dispensation of these cases.
Right.
I would also screen corruption. So if that is curbed, if the victims know that if they go to court, they are going to get justice, their matters will be heard and it will be judicially and judiciously decided on, then they would want to come out and say that, okay, this is what happens to me, and it will go a long way to curbing it.
Okay. Let's go to your book now, Gasp. It's something on social issues and well relatable looking at the
Yeah.
conversation we're having now. How do you think that storytelling can be used to raise awareness about human trafficking? Because as much as we get to talk about these issues, every day we find young people falling victim of this menace. As a matter of fact, we still see parents that willingly give out their children. Yes, many have argued that times are hard, and it's rather unfortunate because these things they've been on for as far as the 80s, 90s. So it feels like things will always not be, the economy will never be favorable to all, sadly. So how much of storytelling can we involve in? How much of storytelling can help us raise awareness about human trafficking, and how do we direct the message to the persons that we really need to reach out to?
Yes, literature itself is a very powerful tool. Storytelling, literature, entertainment, the visuals is a very powerful tool that can be that can help disseminate this information. I remember seeing a particular movie. I'm trying to remember the title now. Blood Sisters,
Right.
On this issue. The the description, the movie itself was so vivid, and after I remember after seeing that movie, I it affected me. Like the impact was great. So that is one of the ways storytelling have been able to tell me, who is not even a victim, and I could relate to, I could imagine it, imagine what these persons are going through in the hands of these traffickers. If peradventure I had the thought of maybe engaging in that, say because of poverty, I would always say that the main cause of these actions, the main cause of persons venturing into this, parents willing to their daughters, even either with knowingly or unknowingly, actually. Because I think I read somewhere, sorry, I have to debate here now. I read somewhere, some case, I think last week,
Okay.
where the mother had sent the child to, it's a court of appeal authority, where the mother had given her child from Edo State, gave the daughter to a person who she did not know was a trafficker to take her to Kuwait for, I think, an hairdressing job or something. And only for the child to go over there, and it was actually,
Wow.
and the mother had to cry out, the child cried out, and then the like mother that that movie had been dead happened. She would have asked herself that, are you really sure this thing is, or this my child is just. So storytelling has its way of painting pictures the way it should be to provoke the needed emotions in people so that you can know what you're venturing into and be able to warn yourself not to venture into it. It's playing a lot of roles. Like I did that in GASP. The intention of GASP was to warn the public, should I use the word one now, to actually educate the public on
Okay.
the negative impact of that. And I think it did. I got a lot of reviews from people who would call and say, oh, did you travel to Russia? How did you know that that's what was done over there? Did you go
Wow.
to Italy? How do you know that this was what was done over there? So it sparks that emotions in people. So I would always recommend that if you want to pass the needed information to people, to get them to relate deeply into what you're trying to warn them against, put it in a story, build the emotions around it, and just put it out there for them to watch for movies and then read for storybooks.
All
So
right.
yes, it does.
Very, very brilliant strategy there. I'm already feeling what you're saying because as I was listening to you, I could just have images of me seeing some certain scenes in movies and how it somehow shapes me, sort of the decision you make. Sometimes some of the scenes you've seen in these movies or in books comes to mind when some things happen in reality and you can put it side by side while making decisions. But still talking about this very sad situation that a lot of young people have found themselves in, a lot of families, as a matter of fact. What strategies do you propose for protecting Nigerian girls from human trafficking? And how can communities, government, individuals, neighbors work together to prevent this? I know that we are in a different age because naturally Africans, Nigerians, we are more of a community per people. We believe so much in, oh, this child is not just your child, is our child. But gone are the days. Right now, we're in a more mind your business kind of scenario because I know that growing up, when you want to make some decisions, there are conversations you have. Most of our parents were even involved in community groups and all that, and it's never wrong for another person to scold your child or even ask questions about the decisions they are making. If, as a matter of fact, even for education, when you want to take a course, you see people asking you, oh, what department are you going to from GSS3? Oh, why are you doing this? A neighbor can even come and tell you that, oh, I see that you are more of a talking person than a technical person. Why don't you explore? You know, that's how we used to be, but times have changed. But the situations are not changing. So how can we, as communities, governments, people, work together to prevent such scenarios, and we won't be we won't be misunderstood as poke nosing into something that is not our business?
Yes, thank you very much. So, because I'm a storyteller, I'm going to tell a story before I delve
That's
into
fine.
responding to your question. I remember I was born and bred in Warri. I remember then when we would go to church, young girls, myself and my siblings, when we wear a particular type of clothing like that. I'm a Catholic, and some of these church warders would come and they would just adjust the clothes with so much aggression, like just adjust it, do it very well, and all of that. And once we had to actually bring it up with my mother, my late mom, sorry,
Oh,
and
sorry
then tell
about
her
that.
that, thank you, we don't like the way this lady likes to just drag our clothes inside the church. It's embarrassing. And she says, it's good though, so that the thing I cannot tell you in the house, let someone else
Tell
tell you.
you.
There's always been that community collaboration in the raising of children. Sadly, really sadly, it's no longer it's not as it was. It's still there in some communities, but in some areas, in some jurisdictions, as a lawyer would say, it's still there, but it has gone down. Now, what strategies would I recommend as it concerns individuals,
Yeah.
institutions, governments, and then communities? So, one of the parts I did not mention about this thing called trafficking, human trafficking, child trafficking, is that when you go to court, the elements a prosecution will prove. One of
Okay.
them is that the act was actually committed, and the second one is that it was committed against the consent or will of the person. So, if in the event of a child, whether consent was granted or not becomes irrelevant. Now, how do we, the thing is, how do the prosecution, because I'm going to come forward from the legal aspect of it.
That's fine.
How have our prosecuting bodies been able to see how they can curb this thing? What actions have they taken? What actions do they have in place to see that proper investigation, that's the police now, enforcement agencies, and then the prosecuting bodies, let's say the DPP and all those prosecuting bodies of the federal ministries
Right.
that prosecute this, what actions do you take to ensure that proper investigation, to ensure that when these perpetrators are caught, that they don't go to court and then they are able to get away with their actions? Because the law is clear that a case against a person, against an accused person or a defendant presently, must be proved beyond reasonable doubt. We want to for things now. So the ones that have been caught, the ones, because these are very deadly persons. So if a victim raises a voice and say this person did XYZ to me, and at the end of the day the person goes out unscathed, nothing is done to that person, the person is free just because evidence was not collected, and perhaps the ones that were collected was thrown out. So it behoves on a number of factors. For the legal aspect, I will call upon the enforcement agencies that investigate. Okay, they should up their game. I'm using one of these words. They should what's the word now? They should ensure that these persons are caught. Can be done to ensure that the enforcement agencies are able to curb these things, are able to apprehend these persons, ensure that they are apprehended, and when they are apprehended, proper investigations should be done. We have enforcement agencies that the moment a person is caught, all they do is get statement from that person and then they are going to court. Prosecuting body has evidence to be able to see how they can nail the perpetrators of
Oh,
this crime.
true.
Also now behold the judge to ensure that, okay, when these persons are brought to court, matters are expeditiously dispensed. necessary, not necessary prolonging of the cases, and it's decided on that area. Now, other than this justice sector, another strategy I would actually recommend is empowerment. The reason why these persons go into this act is poverty. Whether we like it, no matter how we try to bend it this way or the other way, it's actually because a lot of persons feed, they don't have money to feed,
True.
and they see a quick way to be able to handle, and then they go into it. So if we have more empowerment schemes for the poor people in communities, in the creeks and all of these places, creeks and hills, and all of these places, it will help to reduce it.
Okay.
Then another strategy I would recommend, sorry, am I taking too much
No,
time?
it's fine. It's fine.
Yes, another strategy I would recommend is education. A lot of persons are not really aware of these things, although there is a saying that ignorance is not an excuse.
An excuse, never an
Like
excuse.
when I have conversations with people, I normally say that
Okay. Some network glitch there. We would go on a break now. We would return to talk more about this in our society, human trafficking, and how we can protect, prevent, and guilt the perpetrators of this evil. Stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us on People's VO. It's me, Teresa, and we are discussing protection and prevention, prosecution and justice, liability of the victims, and partnership and collaborations. We are looking at ways to help fellow citizens. It's rather unfortunate that in 2025, a lot of young people and families has been using take out poverty when talking about the underlying factors of people falling victim of all of these things. And more unfortunate is the fact that social media has been used by a lot of people to make money, but still attracted vulnerable African region and beyond, promising them wealth, telling them that they are going to be doing some legitimate hustle, as they call it. A recent report on a certain talking about how she was in Libya, and this was even in collaboration with the support of her mom, because a family friend had a mom that a lot of young people are making money for 2 years. Us, we can actually turn, we help change the fortune of the family. She accepted and getting into Libya. The story is not even something that you want to hear. It was a very, very bad experience for her. Shame a lot of time, beyond being this, they don't even have the word self-worth does not even is just because some abusers need to make money. These people are still talking about these issues I still have with me, like I said, Teresa, and we will be talking about tell us what measures can be taken to identify and support vulnerable girls who are at risk of human trafficking. I know that a lot of this has been done in media. Families don't even have access to media. Some of these things are done locally. And also, I want you to touch on the possibility of communities and families being empowered to girl child from traffickers. What do we say to parents? How do we encourage them? How do we encourage? And you already touched on the importance of education in preventing human trafficking, but also how much access can we give to girls when it comes to awareness in all of these things? I wanted to put this together.
Okay, yes, you mentioned, and family.
Yeah,
While I was hammering on the negatives of poverty, which has now, which influenced a lot of these decisions, I would also say that that is also it's a two-way thing. While yes, this is one of the causes, a lot of persons are poor, so they see this as a quick means to actually take themselves off poverty and do
absolutely.
better. I would also say that it's because families should actually be educated, communities should actually be educated by civil societies and non-governmental organizations on the fact that you don't have there are actually ways of actually getting by even if you're poor. That's what Mr. A has does not mean you have to send your child to Italy or Cuba because you want to live. What happens to gathering your kids and going to a farm to hustle? So I would actually say that for community responses, traditional rulers, and all of these people, should be hammered on them that you don't have XYZ does not mean you have to perpetrate in crimes. And also the mothers of it, it also boils down to the justice sector and the legal sector again. The mothers that knowingly or unknowingly is no excuse,
Right.
that knowingly or unknowingly also should also feel the wrath of the law
Yes,
so that we can
I'm
be able to
even
curb
still
it.
going to get to that part of the victim liability on the part. But let's talk about prosecution established already. You know some of these things and how this process works. Prosecuting human trafficking cases in Nigeria. How can justice system be strengthened to effectively prosecute traffickers? On the part of the victim, how can they be supported and protected? Because in most cases, you've seen people who have been courageous enough to come out to talk about it, but it's not the way for them to identify or to make public the persons involved in this trafficking. So if the legal system works as I'll be expecting, how can we protect these people that have been victimized and there is a lot of while such cases are on? And finally, the potential consequences for traffickers. And I mean, significant enough to serve as deterrents to others from engaging in human trafficking.
Yes, there's this inclusion in the new VAP Act that I applauded. That was the inclusion of a sex offenders register.
Okay.
Yes. because of that was because of the prevalence of these sexual offenses, men, women, as the case may be, with the new section now that says that rape can now extend to men and women alike, saying that because of the prevalence of these offenses, it's now in the new act that if a person is convicted of such offenses, the person should be named in a sexual offense register, and that can be accessible to the public. So while I'm still waiting to be able to go on Google and just search for these particular things and just see people's name being popped out once they have been convicted, I would also recommend that that should be done for these offenses as well. Because the prevalence of this human trafficking and child trafficking offenses is becoming too much.
Yeah.
And it's actually detrimental to, it's not just, I would even say that the detriment of offense victim or the families of the victims is also detrimental to the society at large, because these traumatized children, traumatized adults would vent on other persons. And you know, the cycle goes round, it keeps going, because the trauma, one of those persons that decide to take to drugs to be able to fix themselves, and then gets another person to join them in taking their drugs. One of those that comes back with sexually transmitted diseases.
Right.
One of those that come back and become terrors of the streets and then start tormenting everybody in the environment. So it's not just an offense that impacts only the victims itself. It also impacts negatively on the society. So actions should be taken, stringent actions should be taken to see how it can be curbed. And if naming the perpetrators, once convicted, in a register that would be accessible by everyone, public, just a tap of your phone on your internet, on the Google platform, then that should be able to curb it. Because if you know that, if a person who engages in this act knows that the moment I'm convicted, it doesn't with the fact that I'll be going to prison. My family is going to be shamed for life because my name would be everywhere that I committed that offense. I think that would also curb it. So that is me talking about strengthening legal aspects, legislation, and even then the justice.
Because this is a very important part of this. I believe that this of human trafficking can sometimes be complicit in their own, or are they always innocent?
Yes.
It's a very sensitive one, but we need to talk about these things too.
Yes, that's that poverty is the reason why they don't say, because it is, or because Miss Hay is able to eat, have that same lifestyle, you have it done. Because I stated that poverty is one of the foremost factor for, but at the same time, I would say that if that's a luxurious meal, we can afford that. What propels these persons to want to engage in these actions is a luxurious life. So yes, a lot of these persons, these victims, are persons that intentionally venture into it.
So
The
this
only
luxurious life you're talking about, you just mentioned now, do you think it's a
Yes.
societal problem? Because we have a society where classism is a major thing.
Yes, yes. With the influence of social media now, if you go on Instagram, there's so much lifestyle over there, and a number of us just wants to tap into it. So if you're
We keep
not
tapping.
patient, yes, you want things that would enable you tap into it at the earliest, as fast as possible. So a lot of, other than the persons are most sympathetic towards is the children that are being exported to this country for these actions. But for adults who are being moved to these places, I would say that they are not really innocent. Because if a person meets you and tells you that I am going to take you to Italy for you to start making hair, don't tell anybody. Once there is
Then that's a problem. If I don't have to tell anybody.
I don't have to tell. Why don't I have to tell anybody? Tell my friend that, oh, Mr. XYZ or Miss XYZ is taking me here. Then you know at that point that this thing is legal.
In that case, what are the potential consequences for victims who may have been involved in these legal activities as a result of their own?
Well, by the definition of trafficking, they were deceived and yes, forced or deceived, and a number of those factors for them to have been taken there, which means that consent is very important because there is a legal matter that says volenti non fit injuria. So when you give a consent to actually, when you're an adult, so it doesn't work for a child because they are not up to the age of consent. So when you give consent to a particular action, then for a particular thing to be done to you, then you don't turn around to say that this was done to me. So that becomes an issue because if I consent to be trafficked to Italy, to be engaged in these offenses, and then tomorrow I come around and say that this and this was done, am I a victim or one of the perpetrators in that circumstance? I agreed. They met me, and I agreed with them that we would go there, and I knew what we were going for. Even if it was not clearly stated, I gave my consent and agreed to go with them. And then I was brought back. I don't know, am I a victim or a perpetrator in that regard?
Okay.
Because I knew what I was going for.
Yeah.
Them to go and do to me.
That feels more like an intentional hustle, but we are running out of time. I really want us to talk about collaboration and partnership, but I hope that we will call you again and you would respond because there's so much to talk about so that Nigerians can be enlightened and know how some of these things work.
Collaboration. Actually, talk of collaborations
in
with
30
international
seconds.
organizations. Okay, sorry, collaborations with international enforcement bodies like what do they call the Interpol and all that, to see how they can be able to get this person back and how we can tap into their sophisticated way of investigations and how they can also train our enforcement bodies, our enforcement agencies to see how we can be able to curb all of this.
Okay. Thank you so much, Teresa, for sharing your valuable insights and expertise on combating human trafficking and protecting Nigerian girls. So far, your contribution has shed light on the complexities of these issues and the need for a multi-faceted approach to prevention, protection, and prosecution. As we continue the discussion, or as we wrap up this discussion today, we hope that this conversation will inspire our viewers further and give us proper understanding of how these things happen and how we can do better when it comes. The people's voice here is a platform for everybody to be heard, and I'm glad that we had such a productive one today. Till we come your way, same time, same station tomorrow on VOP TV. My name is Adefunke Jaisime, and I strongly believe in this project Nigeria. Collectively, we would make Nigeria great again. Good afternoon.
To know the happenings in the maritime sector, join us on the program Maritime Frontiers on VOP TV as we discuss key areas.